Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Arborist Call. So we'll start shortly after three. Well, it's three. Let's just start now. Um, oh, this call is being recorded. So if you do not want to be recorded, please turn off your screens. Yeah, it's 11th of December, right? Okay, so our agenda. We're going to be talking about the core stack update. So we're going to be hearing from the Foundation, ECC, Zingo Labs, and we're also going to talk about Zcash deprecation specifically. And then there'll be some research and implementation updates from Kedit and Shielded Labs and ECC. And then at the end, we'll have time for any announcements or discussions. So if you have anything particular you would like to speak about, you'll have an opportunity then. Of course, if you want to ask questions throughout, please just, put something in the chat or raise your hand. So what are these? So we do these every other week. And this is an opportunity for people in the Zcash ecosystem to discuss timelines and processes and where we are with different projects. Also really useful to discuss any potential blockers we might have so we can help each other. And the reason we do this is for transparency and also for anyone who just wants to understand more about what's happening at the moment, to hopefully have this to be a forum where it's presented in an accessible way and you can ask questions. So anyone can join. And yeah, here's the registration link. And if you want to suggest a topic for discussion, then yeah, just email arboristcall@zfnd.org and we will take note of that. And yeah, some other ways to get involved. So we have our community grants. We also have a research and development Discord and our community forum. So lots of different ways you can connect with people. Okay, let's get started. So core stack updates. I believe Marek is talking about Zebra from the Foundation.
Yeah. Let's see. Since the last Arborist, we released Zebra 3.10, and the notable changes there are the fixed ARM64 Docker images, then the so-called dust filter for transactions in the mempool, and configurable size of RPC responses. And after that, we merged preliminary support for the Ping RPC, and we are significantly extending our Grafana metrics. And the last thing is that we're adding support for checking and generating blocks with pre-canopy subsidies, which will unlock higher parity with Zcash-D on Rectest, among other things. And that's all.
Great, thank you, Marek. Are there any questions from anyone? No? Great. So next we have ECC. Who's going to talk from them?
I can. So last couple of weeks, we have been pushing through on being able to cycle more Zallet updates out. So we're working through, at the moment, I'm reviewing the SLSA related stuff for so the stack on top of the reproducible builds for assurance in the binaries. Once that's through, then Zallet Alpha 3 will be out. So hopefully that will be in the next day or so. Also got through a review and are in the process of reviewing, I believe, the implementation changes for the updates to the lightwallet-protocol protocol, specifically adding transparent, optionally being able to add transparent data to compact blocks. The goal of that then being to allow for better privacy when scanning transparent, to ensure we don't miss anything, and also enable transparent reverse rotation in various places. We have been making progress on changes in the core libraries enabling rewinding of accounts, or sorry, like disconnecting of accounts. So this is to enable things like disconnecting and reconnecting Keystone hardware wallets to wallets, enabling disconnecting them from a wallet if you wanted to just move it off, and similar things there. We have what else?
There's the Sapling and Orchard have new crate releases
yes,
in support of making it possible to expose or to add signatures to pieces of teas that are generated outside of the very minimized pieces of T loop that we had initially published. So
yeah. This was in support of some of the hackathon ideas that were going on separately, and so this enables those kinds of uses, as well as sort of more generally the like checking your transaction in a place where you've got easy access to the Rust libraries, but then applying the signatures in a much more constrained environment. Another thing we did in the last 2 weeks, I set up some benchmarking metrics for measuring like wallet sync times for Zcash for Zcash. I can just post the link to them here. I unfortunately have to go fix them. The last couple of days of metrics are not quite right, so I have to go fix those today. But there's a track there for tracking. At the moment, what it's tracking is essentially the time for Zcash DevTool to sync the last 1, 7, and eventually, once I've got enough data, 30 days of blocks. So we can keep an eye on, like, as changes are made to the core libraries and to wallet and things, how long that's taking. The intention is eventually to also be able to add other wallets like real wallets like Zashi and Zallet to there as well, so that we can keep an eye on what the performance penalty cost of like operating in a real mobile environment versus Zcash DevTool, which sort of is like much closer to the hardware and can be a lot more efficient in various ways. So that's there if people want to sort of keep an eye on things. Interesting thing from that is that the 1-day metric, almost all of that is currently performance costs in updating the subtrees. Like that seems to be rather costly in terms of light wallet dequeries, whereas the 7-day one is where most of the like actually syncing blocks time is coming in. So we'll be keeping updates on that sort of going forward, just to give us something to keep an eye on.
Another thing is the Halo 2 releases.
Yes, so the Halo 2 releases that contain the changes necessary for the Orchards and SA circuits. We got those in. We also got in various other community and third-party PRs that have sort of been languishing in there since not having time to that. One of the notable changes is that proof creation on modern mini core CPUs will be about 18 to 20% faster. We haven't tested on mobile yet, but I expect there'll be an improvement there. And proof validation will be 50% faster. So that should be useful for Zebra.
Something else that I wanted to bring up that so the ECC team has a weekly open research and design meeting that we've had some members of ZF attending. One of the things that's come out of the last couple of weeks that is potentially worth pursuing is we've had a number of discussions around.
I'll just put an asterisk there, Chris. Let's defer that to later in the R&D section.
I agree. I'm just going to note it here as it's, as now is the time that it's. So we have some ideas for how to make network upgrades easier by changing how we evolve the transaction format. So, with the objective of making it so that we can do smaller network upgrades and not be blocked by these
we can talk more about that in the R&D section if anyone's got questions.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the other thing, I guess, related to that, but obviously it's been taking up our time these last couple of weeks, is review on the Orchard ZSA PR from the perspective of trying to get it integrated into the Orchard repository. Where at this point we are basically done with review of the non-ZSA changes, the integration part, and except for one bit of circuit code that I need to review. With the intention being that once comments on that are addressed, we can get that merged into the Orchard repo. And then, so related to that, our plan for the core libraries, the core Rust libraries going forward, is to follow the sort of like integration model that we've worked out, whereby for these sort of long-term features, in a sense, we can have them in the repo with PR, so not merged into the main branch, but in the main repo, so that the cost of keeping those long-term branches updated as change, like maintenance happens, is handled by the maintainers rather than by the feature developers. So that should hopefully make it easier for these longer-term features to be integrated and sort of keep up to date with everything. We don't think it's going to be too much of additional overhead on maintainers versus what they already would have to do if it got merged in, all the way into main for a completed feature. But we'll be keeping an eye on that going forward.
Yeah, we need to actually document those. We'll update the contributing MD.
Yeah, we've got a sketch of what we're planning, of what we've drawn out, and that will go into the contributing MD files in the near term.
Great, thank you.
I think that might be everything. There's probably more stuff that we did related to these three things, but that'll do for this.
Cool, great, thank you. Okay, next we have Zingo Labs, who's going to chat from there. Anyone want to give updates on Zaino? Looking to see who's here.
I don't know if
Za is here.
Someone was having problems with the Zoom link.
Okay. Well, we can always come back to that.
Yep. I'm here. Yeah, I can give a quick update on Zaino. We've got two streams. We've got the chain index integration, deprecation of the local cache project, which is almost complete, and that's being run by Nacho, who I think might be on this call and can speak much more fully to the details. And then we've got the deployment of a new test framework for testing chain forks, which I think is also nearing completion. That's Hazel's work. I'm not sure if she's on this call. Yeah. If Nacho, is Nacho on the call?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Yes. There you go. Oh, thank you to speak earlier. Sorry. Yes, the details of the chain index integration work we've been doing. We're basically weaving out the migration from the old local cache that we're deprecating. And so basically we're getting all of the Zaino to be backed by chain index instead of the old modules. And we're closing in on it. Yep.
Great. Anyone have any questions? No? Okay, all right, let's move on. Yes, so Zcash deprecation updates.
Hey.
So,
yeah, well, most of the things were said before. So what we have been doing towards this end of the year is, well, in terms of outreach, I have been talking to the different partners we have, exchanges, mining pools, API providers. One, to do a retrospective on NU 6.1 and what was their experience. We're trying to get feedback on that. and see what we can improve for them and make their lives easier. And then also we are getting some feedback on Zallet and the Z3 stack usage from one or two big exchanges and an API provider, so it's good. And then as it goes on for development, we have been reviewing our timeline, and I've factored in the end of support end of support of the versions of Zcash-D, which is kind of the pacemaker we have for being able to set up kind of our quarter or our period on how Zcash-D can be changed. And we have released a version in October, so the next end of support for this current version of Zcash-D is of 6.10 is on January 21st, which means that then I'm going to go a little bit back on open discussion because I need to ask Kedic folks some questions about this. But then since we've been getting a lot of attention from the market and the general crypto ecosystem, which is pretty awesome, but it has set us back a little bit on our priorities on Zcash-D deprecation. We have some delays on some of the things that we were doing for good reasons, but yet still. So what we are forecasting is that once we signal that every feature that we need to deprecate Zcash-D is in place, then we need to set up a proper testing period, which we have estimated, but we haven't defined strictly, as probably a 16-week period where Zcash-D and the new stack coexist side by side, and people start moving towards the new stack, and they have like Zcash-D as a backup. So considering the pacemaking of 16 weeks of each new release of Zcash-D, then this gives us a window of, for example, if we have everything in place by, for example, beginning of Q2 2026, then the possible NU7 and whatever set of features is defined can be set up in the next in the following EOS or end of support milestone of Zcash-D, which is September 9th, 2026. That's kind of like the timelines we're like. This is a pretty napkin, not even ballpark. It's a napkin kind of a notebook estimate of how our timeline is. And then we need to actually factor in a couple of things that have been going on with the community about sentiment of our CSAs and the different features that will be included in NU7. So yes, this is kind of what we're going strictly on Zcash-D deprecation, but then there are a lot of things that go in the context that will play around how the possible dates of signaling deprecation, feature completeness, and telling the ecosystem to start moving definitely their production environment to the new stack. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on. And these are like, everything is tentative, but we wanted to give an update to the whole community and towards the end of the year to have an idea on how things are progressing and what people should expect in terms of like milestones and things happening in this process.
Cool. Thank you, Paku. Does anyone else want to give any updates which haven't already been said around deprecation? Yes, Alfredo.
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, in addition to that, I'm working on creating OpenRPC document for Zebra, and also I will do it for Zaino. And then in the C3 repository, I'm building a router that it opens another endpoint, but when you using the two specs, the Zallet and the Zebra one, when you call a method which is in Zallet, it redirects there. And when it calls an RPC method that is in Zebra, it get a response from there. So it's kind of a unified endpoint with all the RPC methods. So I'm working on that. It's pretty dirty right now. I moved some code to a common crate, which is right now a project in my computer, because I followed what Zallet did in regards to build a map in the when you are building Zallet with all the RPC method, a RAS map, and then when you have an RPC discover endpoint that use that map to generate the spec. And I did the same for Zebra, and I will do the same for Zaino, so it's a lot of common code. So I think we should move that to a separate crate. But yeah, that's some question I will maybe ask you guys later. But just to let you know, I'm working on that. It's a unified OpenRPC specification, and it's a RAS router that redirects the calls to whatever of the three endpoints we have in the stack. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alfredo. Anything else from anyone? No. Okay. Next slide. Yes, Kedit, research and implementation update. So who from Kedit wants to speak? Pavlo.
Thanks, Natalie. Can I share my screen, please? Okay, so we wanted to convey the status of the project. So as previously mentioned, everything done for ZSA in Halo 2, Halo 2 proofs, Halo 2 gadgets, and other dependencies for the circuit has already been merged. Some of it have already been released, as mentioned today by Strad. And now the focus is Orchard ZSA. So this is in active review, and I will discuss in a moment. Once it is done, we can properly update Libra Zcash for the changes done in Orchard ZSA as a result of the fixes of the review, and the same for Zebra. In addition to this, there is two auxiliary code bases. One is Zcash test vectors, the changes done for transaction V6 and Orchard ZSA. We are doing these changes. Specifically, and we have a TX tool, a tool to generate transaction V6. We are using it for testing against the Zebra modified node. More specifically, on the subject of Orchard, just this week we received a review from Strad, reviewing everything except the circuit changes. Strad, correct me if I'm wrong. Everything except the circuit changes was reviewed. We had a discussion this week with the ECC team there at Strad that around the requested changes. Paco, go ahead.
No, please finish your update.
Okay. In addition to this, as mentioned by Strad, the base branch for the changes, it's not the main branch anymore. It is a dedicated integration branch. The ECC is working on a team the ECC team is working on a way to streamline these long-term features, and they introduced a new branch, and the idea is to have the development done in one of the branches in the Orchard main repo in the future. Hopefully this will give more visibility, maintainability, and all the other benefits that Strad mentioned. So this is also a positive. Next, we have changes to test vectors. Vivek, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So like we had put up pull requests to the test vectors as well, and we got reviews from Strad and Alfredo on that. So like some of the initial changes that were there were like regarding like while we had done this, we also made some changes to the formatting of all the test vectors in general to allow for us to just directly copy paste the things from the Zcash test vectors repo to the Orchard or Libra Zcash repos where they are used. So one of the things that's here on the screen is the just simply adding a Rust FMT, like doing FMT on the generated Rust test vectors. So this was all part of the pull request 108 at the start. And what was requested was that we separate these parts that are not ZSA specific outside this PR so that like it reduces obviously the diff and it makes it easier to change the like look at exactly what change is happening. So we split this up into a few pieces. So this is the first of those PRs, which is just simply it adds cargo FMT, like it runs FMT on the vector so that we get it in the format that can directly be pasted into the downstream repos. So beyond that, so we have this one that's out and ready for review on Zcash test vectors. Beyond that, we will be adding, like based on some of the other comments that were there on the PR, like there were some things which were like extra unused imports and things like that, which we will separate out. And later, and there's also stuff regarding the indentation and adding the pub crate visibility for the test vectors and things like that. So those are all coming in subsequent PRs. And then we have I think like there was recently the NSM and there's like zip233 amount. Those changes were added into the main like of Zcash test vectors. And so we are catching up to that upstream as well. And there's like some things that we have to integrate, basically merge the two things in a unified way. So we will be doing that next. And then we'll be checking that it basically is a complete TXV6 like representation of TXV6, essentially, that it covers all the fields that should be there for TXV6. So that's our plan for the moment for Zcash test vectors.
Thanks, Vivek. So in addition to the formatting, we are rebasing it on top of the latest version of Python test vectors. As Vivek mentioned, there is a conflict between TXV6 initial implementation that was already merged to the TXV6 that we did. So we are working around this to align our version with what already been merged, and we will be submitting this in subsequent PR. Aside from this, we have the work of Zebra. So we have one tested node that is capable of doing all the ZSA operations as was demoed in the previous video call. It can do transfer, burn, finalize, issue using the TX tool. We are working on global state management for ZSA. We need to keep additional record of additional details for the consensus checks for it to work. And once the upstream crates are integrated, the focus will be on Zebra. So we will have much more of this coming, especially after some version of Orchard is reviewed and fixed and included in the main, in the integration branch. And the focus will be shifted toward Libra Zcash and Zebra. This concludes our update. Paco, you wanted to ask or to add something?
Oh, yes. I wanted to ask you a few things. So a few days ago, Kate filed a grant or posted a grant to cover for what I understand are the last remaining items of Orchard CSAs, Zebra integration, and Zebra Zcash integration. Do you consider this like as code complete as of like for what it entails CSAs as a feature?
So after so we have a running version of Zebra ZSA. The idea is to finish the review process of Orchard ZSA, include the changes required by the reviewers, then to do the same for Libra Zcash. First, adjust to the changes in Orchard ZSA, then do a round of reviews for Libra Zcash. Libra Zcash involves also transaction v6. It will be not as big as Orchard ZSA, but still the content is significant for Libra Zcash. After this is done, we will take the changes into account in Zebra, and there is a need to work with Zcash Foundation to review the changes for Orchard ZSA, for ZSA in Zebra. Again, round of reviews, fixes, and then hopefully merge it either to integration branch or the main, whatever the decision is. Yeah, this is all the content of the grant.
And do you think that that after completing these, or maybe I don't know, 70% through all of this work, a testnet could be launched to have like this version, like all like CSA is working as you say in a testnet that people can more easily access to and start like building applications and testing out and feeling what Orchard CSAs bring to the protocol. I'm thinking about like whenever this feature goes live, if there's consensus for it, I think that a good lesson learned from NU5 is that we better make use of testnet to have people to test and develop things to actually use the feature of the protocol, and not actually launch it as an kind of like abstract thing that was implemented to the protocol, but then there is no actually tangible way to use it. And I was wondering about what a prudent testnet period for this feature is, and I don't know how many months, like 3 months, 6 months, and if you think that could start like as you end this last grant you've just filed, or if there's anything else that needs to be done.
Okay, so there is already a single node testnet running, and it is accessible to the public. There is a video of me showing how to use it in the Arborist call from 1 month ago. It is accessible, it is open, we are maintaining, this is an unofficial testnet, just to demonstrate the capabilities of Zebra with ZSA. Later, there is a need to, as you say, there is a need to provide proper testnet, which is the official Zcash testnet. Sure, we can discuss this. We can do this. We can, the thing with official Zcash testnet, you probably want all the features for the release to be included, not just ZSA. So that's why we keep this single node testnet live. The bottleneck with this is the ability to create transactions. So we have a TX tool that allows us to create these transactions, and it is well integrated. Anyone can download and run it and imagine the applications. It also includes issue, not just transfer and burn. So it is there. We will keep maintaining the unofficial testnet as much as needed, of course, for the upcoming grant, and even after we can discuss, we can continue this work. Yes, definitely. Strad, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what Paco was asking about was not an update to the main Zcash testnet, but having a separate testnet, but that is like widely agreed alongside it, or maybe was potentially even a fork of the main testnet. So like bootstrapped from that testnet. So that would be not too dissimilar to the single node one, but presumably then in a position where other implementations would be able to more easily integrate with it because it behaves more closely to the main testnet. And indeed, once we get to the point of once we get to the point of things being sort of merged through the stack and available sort of more easily integrated, then it will be easier for the node operators to coordinate a feature testnet for this ahead of any changes to the main testnet.
Yeah, definitely. And once Orchard review is done, and once Libra Zcash review is done, the maturity of this work will be much higher, and then it is the proper time to potentially launch a feature testnet, as Strad said. Yeah, Paco.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, cool. Yes, I was thinking about that too, like whether you have thought of this in terms of like using the official or the main testnet, or if we need to the changes are so like radically different that we need to launch a different testnet and have the current testnet as it is for like daily development. And maybe we can like start discussing that, and probably you folks need to actually scope this in because it sounds like a lot of work.
Well, I can answer that from a protocol perspective, which is that the main testnet tracks mainnet ahead of time. So we cannot merge to and deploy on the main testnet until the consensus rules are fully provided in terms of we know exactly what's going to go into mainnet. Because then because otherwise, if we deploy to testnet and then they change, we then have to roll back testnet in order to ensure that what's on testnet will reflect what's on mainnet. So that can be disruptive and has caused breaks in the official testnet in the past. So we try and do that later in the process. So I think that's where the flexibility of having feature testnets that are less problematic to tear down would be much more beneficial for this and make it easier for users to actually to test the new features, while, as you say, also enabling regular testnet to still be able to use for testing against current behavior.
Nate?
Yeah. So this idea of I feel like we need a focused cross-org effort to figure out how to do feature testnets well, and how to sort of develop them to become mature to eventually merge into the main testnet. I like to call it staging net because from like my old Web 2 app days, there was this concept of you have a staging website and everything should be code identical to what you want to publish to the public. And so I think we definitely need that kind of final stage testnet before mainnet. But we also need feature testnets where, Shielded Labs needs this too. We've been doing workshops, but every workshop we've had an ephemeral testnet. And so there's like this general problem I feel like multiple orgs are running up against. So I feel like it would be good to get a conversation going on that. And so maybe I'm volunteering myself to try to arrange a meeting about that, maybe, or maybe it could be a topic for like the R&D meeting. Anyway.
Yeah, it is a great suggestion, Nate. Go ahead.
Oh, just one more detail. I am not tracking Tachyon too closely, but I assume ZSA's Crosslink and Tachyon might all need some common like infrastructure needs for doing things that aren't compatible with mainnet yet. But we want there to be nodes. We want people to be able to join. We want it to be persistent. And we want different ones for different feature sets. So maybe those 3 orgs at least, and then maybe Zebra or other infrastructure code teams could jump in a meeting and figure out like a good next step there.
Yeah, it could have proper instructions for people, like an easy ramp up for anyone that want to test this feature or build on top of this future feature. Yeah, it is a great suggestion.
Okay, I'm going to put myself on the record as like trying to organize that in maybe late January or February to get that conversation started, just because that's what works for my schedule and the holidays and stuff.
Yeah, on our side, so we have the single node to test the functionality. We are not waiting, so we have something to that is publicly accessible. But being part of this process and to streamline feature testnets sounds like a good idea.
Cool. Anything else anyone wants to say, or shall I? I'm going to share my screen again. This one. Everyone see that? Okay, cool. So next we have Shielded Labs.
Hi. So just a couple updates on the NSM. First, Least Authority has completed their audit of ZIP 233, and I've shared the report with the engineering teams at ECC and the Zcash Foundation. Their primary recommendation is to update the ZIP to include a requirements section and a privacy implications section. So we're working on those additions and plan to have them ready for review by next week's ZIP editor meeting. On the engineering side, as I mentioned on the last call, Iger's contract ended in late November, and Shielded Labs has taken over the work. Judah is working on updating the code and rebasing the ZIP 234 and ZIP 235 PR, and we expect to have that completed before the end of December. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions, anyone? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, Crosslink. So Shielded Labs and ECC. Anyone want to? Any volunteers?
Yes, I have Shielded Labs updates. Okay, so we finished. Let me find my notes. We finished what we were calling Workshop 4B at the beginning of December, and wait a minute. Oh yes. Okay, and that went pretty well, and so it was the first milestone where we began hooking up the actual testnet ZEC, CTAS we call for Crosslink specific testnet ZEC, into the staking weight that's used in proof of stake. So this is like the first milestone where actual proof of stake is starting to emerge. And another really exciting thing is we had Zingo join, and they're participating to make a demo, like an iOS demo wallet. And then the Shielded Labs team has had a visualizer, and we completely rebooted that and integrated wallet functionality. So there were like 2 demo wallets. Plenty of stuff was rough around the edges, but it was really cool that, there's a desktop one and a mobile one, and then there's also you could run the finalizer. For the next milestone, which we want to do, I think, mid to late January, we're going to start tightening the screws on all of the proof of stake stuff. So we've written some blog posts about trying to balance different trade-offs between timing, user experience for staking, unbonding delays, privacy, financial appeal, and there's probably more axes in the trade-off space. Anyway, so we have like a basic design that we're going to start building for the next milestone. So it'll have unbonding periods. It'll have quantization of amounts as like a privacy thing. So you can only stake powers of 10 CTAS. And then there's plenty of usability improvements and we want to do. And we've had a discussion at Shielded Labs. I don't know if we've looped in Zingo, but we realized there's kind of 2 possible goals. One is to make like a really polished experience, and the other is to do more experimentation in terms of usability. And I think we're mostly leaning towards experimentation. So rather than try stuff out with the UX, do a workshop, get review and feedback from that, and see how that is. So expect experimentation, rough edges, things breaking, but we're exploring how to do the UX well and all of the other code. And then another goal we have here is to improve some of the infrastructure. So this kind of ties into the testnet thing. Like one example is we need, our demo testnet is doing proof of work, and we kind of need to do that since Crosslink is about proof of work. So we can't really use a proof of authority like reg test style testnet we could, but we would rather make it more realistic for actual Crosslink. So one need for our feature testnet is to have real proof of work mining. And now we have this challenge of, okay, well, how do we distribute CTAS to the participants so that they can try stuff out, right? So this is just kind of like a general infrastructure thing. It would be nice if we had a persistent testnet, it had mining, it was somehow accumulating the assets, and then when we're running workshops, we can distribute them. So we want to make some improvements on that front. And then we've also been trying to, we started collaborating a bit with some ZecHub folks on getting more like community, like fun stuff, basically. So we have we're brainstorming different like goals, like, hey, as a participant, can you, like a simple one is, can you stake with either one of the wallets? More advanced ones might be like, can you try out both wallets and compare them, or try to, get the most people to stake to your finalizer, or things like this. So it's not meant to be a competition, but just like a way to stimulate people to try out different things. And we started working with ZecHub to come up with like awards. I think they might be NFTs. I wasn't noticing that too closely, but at least badges. And so that's kind of fun. So that's the 4C goal is the end of January. And by the end of Q1 2026, what we want to do is get the prototype to a what we're thinking of as like a feature complete phase. So this will not be a production ready wallets or design. So it may have bugs, security flaws, bad UX, etc. But it kind of shows a persistent feature testnet where all of the main moving pieces are accessible to people. And then also a lot of the design that we've been fleshing out as we're trying to connect the more abstract design that Dara and Strad especially worked on at ECC. I helped with a while ago. That's abstract. It's great, solid work, and we're trying to make it real with code. And so there's a lot of gaps and pieces in there that we have been sorting through. So at the end of this Q1 2026, what we want to do is like basically show the community and say like this does all the things, but to make it safe for mainnet, there's still a fair amount of work. Should we proceed to work on this, it'll probably take at least a year to get it ready for like the staging testnet, right? So look forward to that. That we'll have like announcements and ways to give feedback and stuff like that. And as part of that, we have started some of that process of hardening it to make it more production ready. We're just getting started. So one thing is we're just starting a work with an independent design reviewer named Nicholas Della Pena. And he's an independent mechanism design researcher. So we're giving him, he's focused on the design documentation, which is exciting because that part is a bit messy. And what we're doing is nailing everything down into a specific Git revision. And then he's going to run with that. And so Jason's going to be publishing an announcement about this later today. But the reason we're nailing that down is to we're trying to do like a pre-registered sort of process where we say, here's what we have. It includes the questions we want in a design review to focus on. And we're just going to upfront share that with the world that this is what we're looking for so that any review reports that we get from that or that get published, we will publish any reviews that are done. You can kind of tell we didn't like change the scope or tweak the questions or whatever to make it look better. Like we want to have a rigorous process. Yeah, so that's sort of where we are with Crosslink. Did I miss anything? I probably missed some things, but that's the big picture.
Zara, did you have your hand up? Do you still want to say something?
My question was answered.
Great. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you, Nate. Anything from anyone else? No.
Oh, actually, in the interest of accountability, I mentioned last workshop I would be submitting a zip PR, but I haven't done that yet. It's shifted more towards preparing documents for this review, which is a good precursor step. But okay, that's it. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, so open announcements. So this is announcements. Discussions are next. Chris, do you have an announcement? No? Okay. Oh no. Go back one. Sorry. Okay. Open discussion. So there are a couple of things which I know people have already want to talk about. So Daniel wants to talk about inverse tech, and Mark wants to talk about dynamic fees. Mark, I think you just put your hand up. Do you want to go first?
I'm happy to go first. I raised my hand because I wasn't sure that I was officially scheduled on the call, but sure, I'll go. Let me share my screen here. All right. So in case anybody missed it, we posted this dynamic fees lab, which is just sort of meant to be kind of a light, fun introduction to this topic. It's not meant to be any sort of final design or anything like that. It's just the historical context, some prior art, and like some naive solutions, and then a proposal that meets the goals that we put forth here in this document. You can find this at fees.shieldedinfra.net if you want to look at this yourself. Um, it walks through the background of the fees, the history. It walks through ZIP 317, which is the current fee regime. And then we define these goals here. We don't want to leak information. We want to use public information. We want a clear and consistent user experience. We want to incentivize miners to act in their own self-interest and include legitimate transactions and blocks. We want to respond quickly to congestion. We want to make griefing expensive. We want to make this easy to implement and deploy, and we don't want to substantively degrade user experience compared to the status quo. I think a great first step would be for the community to at least agree that these are the goals. And I want to thank Chris for taking some time yesterday to go through this document with me. Chris, I've not been able to incorporate every single piece of feedback you gave me, but I got a lot of it, including that last goal, which was your idea. Um, this is a cool website because it uses live mainnet data to display the information on it. So you can see that the network is never really all that congested. Right now the utilization is at like 1% of the full block size based on just transaction kilobytes versus the 2 MB block size here. The things that I've seen discussed, these so-called naive solutions, people have talked about just simply lowering the ZIP 317 marginal fee based on the recent price action. But we don't know if this price action is going to be sustained or not, or if it's going to go higher or whatever. So, just manually tweaking the fee probably is not a viable long-term solution. And then other people have talked about increasing the block size, but as you can see, that would not do anything. There's other solutions for this on other blockchains, namely like EIP 1559 style congestion controllers, or like what Solana does in terms of compute abstractions. And then there's sort of real world solutions that like surge pricing in Uber or something like that. So I just call those out here. The section that I'm going to add at some point soon is a trade-off section that says like, if we do this, then we have to sacrifice that, and so on and so forth. So kind of reverse engineering from the goals, or deriving from the goals, we put together this comparable-based dynamic fee mechanism, which uses live market data from the previous blocks and treats it as you would appraise a house, or you would appraise like a eBay item or something like that. It's what people have been willing to pay in the past with regards to transaction fees informs what the current transaction fee is. And the way we do that is by recalculating the ZIP 317 marginal fee as a median-based computation from a previous set of blocks. I arbitrarily chose the last 50 blocks because that's about an hour. And to guard against reorg noise, we shift that by 5 blocks. So we take block 5 to 55 rather than block 0 to 50. We look at that, we calculate the average transaction size in kilobytes and the median per action fee, and we use that to calculate the median. However, we want the fee to go down. So we have this construction where we basically pretend like the blocks are full, but they're full of these synthetic transactions that are set at some sort of variable floor. You could, in the simulator here, you could do 100 Zats, you could do, and it's really anything that's, if we're going to be NSM compatible, it's going to be anything divisible by 5. So you can send 60% of the transaction fee to the NSM and 40% to the miner. That will drag the fees, generally speaking, based on this congestion history, pretty much always down super low. And then obviously we can't just lower the fee because then we're back in like sandblasting land. So we need something that's going to bring the fees up over time. We suggest when there is competition for block space, we suggest using this sort of fast lane, which right now is another arbitrary just 10x calculation. And that will allow users to, at their discretion, say, okay, well, the blocks are getting full here, so we should just, I should pay more, some reasonable amount more to prioritize my transaction. So it's a very minimal amount of discretionary information, which hopefully should inform the wallets and the nodes and everybody in the miners and about what the fees are and what the fees should be. We also suggest bucketing the fees in general in powers of 10, rounding, just using classic rounding up and down to the next power of 10, up or down, which, if it were enforced in consensus, would greatly reduce the fee entropy and potentially things like information leakage. You'll see in the next steps that we want to perform all manner of analysis and testing on this, but that's the idea. We would, we have an activation plan in place, which would start with a policy only phase and then move to consensus. And the consensus rules for this particular iteration of the design end up being very minimal. We would probably require an expiry height that is about the length of the look back window, so stale fees don't hang out in the mempool for too long. We would enforce a power of 10 for the per action fee, and we would define a floor and just make sure that the fees are above that. And again, this is all a work in progress, but we're aiming towards extremely light consensus changes, if any at all. From here, we want to do all sorts of threat modeling. We want to document the trade-offs. We want to do a privacy analysis to see if that discretionary information that we provide can be used in concert with other information to de-anonymize or segment users. And then what I'm doing at the bottom here is kind of collecting a bunch of other just kind of interesting and cool ideas. Strad pointed out that the difficulty could be used as some sort of heuristic price oracle because they're correlated on some level. I found a paper about the Bitcoin fees and treating the mempool like actuarial math, so that people pay a fee if they pay insurance to get their thing into the block, and then the block stuffing is like an insurance claim. And what that does, if you invert that, is allow you to basically tune the fast lane to have a stronger guarantee that it would land in a certain number of blocks. I haven't been able to visualize that, which would make that a lot easier to explain, but that's another cool idea. And then Chris also sent me an idea which I have not been able to put in here yet, so I won't share that at the moment. But so this is the whole thing here. Again, fees.shieldedinfra.net. I would suggest, if you have time or bandwidth, to go and take a closer look at it and give me your feedback. We're still very early in this phase, and definitely would love to hear from you. That's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Let's see, there's some things in the chat. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask or comments they want to add? Yes, Strad.
You're muted.
You are muted.
Speak, Strad.
Yeah, something I noted when you mentioned the activation plan, one of the rules that you proposed there is that transactions must contain an expiry height no more than the length of the look-back window. That, as a side effect, would remove the ability to disable transaction expiry. Now, I don't think that is necessarily a bad idea, but it is a significant idea independent of the fee logic. So if your design has a requirement on this, then we should be talking about disabling transaction expiry much earlier than talking about actually deploying something to raise fees, because that would impact a large swath of the ecosystem. Basically, if you look at the on-chain, at the proportion of transactions, which transactions don't set expiry heights, I expect you will find that they are almost exclusively purely transparent transactions generated by people who have modified Bitcoin transaction production libraries for the purpose of just like making Zcash stuff, but otherwise they are treating things in the so, okay, Nate, what I mean is that if you set the expiry height field to 0, it disables the expiry logic, which is incompatible with that consensus rule. That consensus rule requires the expiry height be both non-zero and no more than the length of the lookback window. Well, the length of the lookback window implies non-zero. So it would be worth, it should be very simple to check what proportion of generated transactions on the chain right now this would impact. That would actually be a nice graph to have on this side.
Great. Yeah, I will look into that. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Strad. Oh, Nate.
Yeah, I had two follow-ups. So one was, yeah, in addition to looking at, like the empirical stuff about current expiry, I think it's useful to also just communicate, like it's making a trade-off in usability. Like if it would be forcing all wallets to behave a certain way, whereas some wallets do and some don't today. And so that's like the bigger picture message to especially wallet developers, but maybe also users. Yeah, so that feels like a big piece, and I think you're right to call it out, Strad. Oh, yeah, my other thought was I really want us to hear from and communicate with the Tachyon team about anything involving fees, because, and it's really early, but if there's any constraints or goals around fees related to Tachyon, then if there's any way we can or should adjust towards that might be interesting. Or it may be the case that it's far out enough that we can just do a sensible thing now and then do another transition there. Hey, speaking of which, why don't we have Tachyon people showing up to Arborist and giving updates? I'll go pester them after this meeting.
Love that. Go for it. Anything else? Blake.
Yeah, just a really quick comment. So Zec.rocks, we're continuing to reward node operators for running Zcash Light Wallet servers. We started with around 12 servers online a few months ago, and this experiment has worked out in 112 servers now being online. So I'd actually love for us to kind of put ourselves out of business, right? Like where we don't have to have any infrastructure that's remotely centralized in our ecosystem. So something we're moving towards, and I invite anyone to kind of DM me or hit me up on the forum if you have comments on it, is I want to start experimenting with directing user traffic towards these community servers. Right now, they're not actually powering any Zec.rocks infrastructure, and it was never announced as something that might. We, of course, will not pass any user identifying IP addresses or user agents or anything like that, like back to the community infrastructure, and we don't log any of that in our infrastructure. But yeah, just kind of throwing that idea out there, and you'll see some more about it on the forums. And yeah, we were able to continue this reward structure. It's roughly $300 per month with Zcash for at least the next 6 months. So it's a great time to run Zcash infrastructure. And we're excited to continue contributing in that way.
This strikes me as a situation where we probably need, in order to make this work, make this more trustless, we probably need something like the fly client proofs.
That's exactly what my hand was up for.
Yeah, so support for the fly client proofs in wallet infrastructure so that wallets can have proofs that the data that they're receiving is not malicious.
Yeah. And mostly that's been blocked on. There wasn't an easy way to implement that in the Golang implementation, but it would be trivial to include that kind of information in Zaino-based lightwallet D because we have all the logic in Rust for building fly client logic. We have the Zcash history crate provides all of that, and so whatever it's missing could easily be added there using the infrastructure that's there. So that's a long-standing has been missing from the light client protocol. That would be good to have because the does like its threat model does involve you are trusting the server for a variety of things. And if we can minimize the trust for some of those aspects, then it makes it more viable to be using arbitrary servers. The other related thing for this would be it would probably mean that we would start wanting to query from multiple different servers rather than one to be able to do cross checks.
Thank you, Strad. Nate and Chris, you're next. But I just want to say that I'm going to watch for time because we have two other topics to people want to talk about. So yes, Nate, go.
Okay, mine's quick. I'm pretty sure Fly Client could benefit Crosslink, and I pushed back on our team from looking into it too much because that feels like a next year kind of thing. So there's a tie-in or dovetail there, and if it were included in Crosslink, it then sort of makes the need to create valid Fly client proofs directly built into consensus, which might be nice.
So my hand is actually just a callback to the ECC update. Something I didn't explicitly say though there is we have tagged a version 04 of the Light Wallet protocol. So this is the thing that Stroud was talking about that adds transparent information to compact blocks, along with a few other updates. There's not yet a Light Wallet D release that supports this, but it is backwards compatible in the gRPC sense that so wallet maintainers and other folks who make use of the protocol definition can go ahead and update to this release. The other thing here for wallet maintainers specifically is that the new definition of the protocol includes a field in Light Wallet info that is the Light Wallet protocol version, so that servers can announce what version of the Light Wallet protocol they support. Now, this does mean that servers will need to upgrade to support 040 in order to announce, and they should completely support 040 in order to announce that they support 040. But that's, that will hopefully make it easier to do things like for a wallet to determine whether the Light Wallet server that it's talking to can provide it with transparent information in compact blocks, for example, or Fly client proofs if those are added at some point in the future.
Thank you, Chris. Daniel had before this said that he wanted to talk about inverse tech. So would you like to go for that, Daniel?
Hi, everyone. As you can see, my daughter is here with me. Good to see you all. It's been quite a while since I don't join one of these. Today I'm here with Dorel, who's a co-founder of Inversed. A while back, we were joining, when we were working with Get for the ZSA design and initial work there. And later on, we actually wrote an SOK on private programmability with the Zcash Foundation. So we're definitely familiar with the ecosystem. And recently we had some ideas that we would like to share with you all and get feedback, because it could eventually transform in some kind of a grant on the sort of related to the topic of how to do private, fully private kind of light wallet on Zcash. Building on top of the momentum that Zachi has created a little bit. So I'm going to just kind of let Aurel speak and give a short presentation on this, and happy to answer any questions you may all have.
Hi everyone, I'm Aurel. Thanks, Daniel. Let me share. We made a little deck. So is this working? I think so. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you and see the presentation as well.
Yes, so at Invest, so we became interested in improving the light wallet protocols for Zcash. So we are looking a little bit into that. So as I mentioned, we are in the studio. We are involved previously in Sapling, Orchard, ZSA, and programmable money for Zcash. And yeah, well, now we'd like to look into the light wallet. So this is a very early phase. We are basically exploring ideas. And we have our third co-founder here, Brian, not present today. So the light wallet protocol that we have, right, it's kind of proportional to the number of transactions. So it's a bottleneck in itself. It's like you're limited by the slowest mobile device in a way, if you want to support them. And in the future, so in the future of higher traffic, and you also have like the risk of centralization, so right, like the servers, they are a good point to collect all the side channel data and try to do like metadata attacks and so on. So just to recap what the light wallet needs. Today, it needs to find the orchard. So to send itself, it needs to update its witnesses. To receive, it needs to detect the transactions incoming into it, and also detect its own past sends. And if we have a future with Tachyon, we also have use cases for some out of band like storage and communication of secrets. So different secret distribution method. So that we imagine that can all work together in some way. So we would like to explore the cryptographic solution that could be relevant. So for instance, try to apply the private information retrieval method. So to make it to make the work on the mobile device sublinear. So that can be used to update the witnesses without revealing. So not running through the entire blockchain, like even quickly, but just looking at the path that you need without revealing which one. So to prevent an unlinkability. We can look into the homomorphic encryption that's needed for the inbound transaction detection, or either like one server that would be homomorphic encryption, or multi-server, that's MPC in that case. So that would be interesting. I don't know if it's known, but that would be interesting to understand like the cost of this. Probably this point number two is like a lot more costly than number one, but it would be interesting to know how much. And if too much, we can also improve, add a concept of notifications of transfer. So in addition to secret distributions, and the concept of a notification is going to be able to do only the detection, because once you have detected that you received a transaction, you can then fetch the like full ciphertext and decrypt it, and that's like sublinear with again a PIR. We could make it more friendly to FHE if you want to go the like FHE side. or homomorphic encryption methods on the server side. So the current methods of encryption, they are not particularly friendly, so to FHE. So that's a cost. You can reduce the cost dramatically by making this choice. And we can investigate some methods of adding some secret that is shared between the sender and receivers in a different way, like adding something to the payment request or deriving some additional cryptographic material that will help the receiver fetch its incoming transactions privately, again with the PIR layer. So we'd like to flesh out this type of ideas, but we're asking for feedback about this, like what's interesting, what has been done maybe. We're also interested in the networking side, like decentralized storage and decentralized like messaging. So again, to share these notifications of transfers. So again, making an out-of-band, basically making a recommendation of the best out-of-band methods that then wallets could adopt. Right? So, and for that, there are like really two features that you like. One is the wallet state. So that the wallet can be recovered from a seed phrase. So by storing its state somewhere on a decentralized storage network. And the second task, we're considering again this notification or secret distribution and finding ways to do that in excuse me in a way that is like sublinear again in cost, using potentially additional cryptographic material, which I call here notification keys. Again, using PIR or using onion routing. So I know that the wallets support Tor, for instance, to access like essentially web servers. But here the idea is to make the wallets participate in some sort of DHT or onion routing mechanism, so that they can forward to each other in a peer-to-peer manner, like this secret distribution and notifications, and in a way that is not uniquely identifiable to this wallet. So having some anonymity set that is still presented. Yeah. So we have a third topic. We are designing right now an identity protocol for at Invest, and we have been discussing with ZCG some ideas about integrating, basically adding identity features to Zcash, right? Like connecting the wallet of the Zcash to identity features like proof of funds and such ideas. So just a teaser for now. And yeah, so the next step for us would be to flesh out those ideas based on feedback from anyone here, and then establish some kind of scope, and then start a discussion on the forum. Yeah, but that's where we're at.
We think that because it's such a like big topic, and I mean there's many of them, but because it has so much behind it, it doesn't make sense to sort of submit a proposal right away to design a protocol, but more to actually like do research and like get a more clarity on specific benchmarks and simulations and things like that on these technologies. So yeah, that's kind of just to put it out there.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, just going to do a time check. We've got 6 minutes left, but we definitely do have an opportunity for some questions. But just quickly though, how would you like to best be responded to? How do you want people to reach out to you? Email, forums, Discord, do you have a preference?
Yes, you can write to us at our email. There's a display. So that's Aurel@invest.tech. Or you can find us on Discord as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Pablo, go for it.
Aurel, you mentioned homomorphic encryption. What is the exact computation that you have in mind in this context?
That trial decryption of ciphertext, like what is currently called in-band distribution, right? So the Diffie-Hellman and the Cha-Cha decryption. Or an alternative which would be like faster, which would be like FHE friendly, and which would be only about detecting the presence of a transaction. So detecting without decrypting, which is not possible in the current format.
Something like the server detects on behalf of the user if this is a relevant node and then respond accordingly. This is the direction.
Yes, the server would do the trial decryption of all the transactions, and then that can be aggregated in FHE as well, so that the output to the client is sublinear.
Interesting, thanks.
Strad.
Yeah, I've had suspicions / hopes for a while that an FHE-based approach to either trial decryption or detection keys would eventually become feasible. And if you think that it might be in the realm of feasibility now, then I'd be very interested to see the results of that sort of like investigative research there. Obviously there's, I'm sure you're well aware, there's a bunch of prior art and prior research that was done into detection keys specifically for the context of Zcash, and none of it sort of really panned out as like satisfying the desires that we had without something like FHE protecting the information. And I think the only other thing independently, so like Chris mentioned Penumbra, what Penumbra ended up deploying was a variant of fuzzy message detection. So like a padding the output / like intentionally colliding detection effectively to provide padding traffic. An FHE-based approach effectively also would incur some amount of padding traffic, because in order to hide the fact that you're getting responses, you necessarily would have effectively something that amounts to constant bandwidth responses to some degree within the response, regardless of the actual traffic you're getting. But presumably there'll be tunability in regards to that. There was something else in your slides I wanted to raise, but I can't remember. The other thing I wanted to bring up is in terms of a place for things to chat, in Zcash R&D Discord, under the R&D category, there is a brainstorming section, which would be an ideal place for if you're looking for discussions on things there with Zcash R&D people. That's a good place to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we're gonna write up a small something description of this and then put it on the R&D platform.
Yeah, because the margin of this call is too small for the discussions that are necessary. But no, there's definitely some interesting like avenues there that are like, someone just needs the time to figure out what's feasible now, and with the benefit of not having looked into it for like 4 years, hopefully there's been more fundamental progress in FHE schemes, which would be nice to look at.
Thanks for that, Strad. Yeah, so everyone do remember that these conversations, of course, can continue after this and at the next Arborist call. We had a lot of chats today, which was great. I'm looking at when we said the next Arborist would be, and apparently 25th of December. I feel like this is unlikely. So I'm not sure when the next one will be.
Just a tad.
Hey Nat, we already announced that it's canceled, so no
Yes.
worries.
The slides were not updated.
I think we should cancel Christmas instead.
Let's cancel Christmas. Well, thank you everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Well, just enjoy your holiday if you're not celebrating anything. And yeah, see you all soon in the new year, probably.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy holidays. Bye bye.